bundle of Mahaprasadam is called Radha Priya. So I ushered them in with great haste so that we could begin. So let me see, where are we? Hare Krishna. Yikes, I'm going to have to, I don't know if I'm going to mess up anything here, but I have to, yikes, just give me a second. Oh my goodness, I'm going to have to reopen. Okay, give me a chance here, give me a minute here. I'm going to open a new window and I'm going to do this. Okay. Okay, just give me a second. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so I need to, somebody tell me what I can do. I need to read from Vedabase on my computer, but the Skype is blocking my screen. So what do I do? Okay.
Shall I share the YouTube?
No, can you see me now?
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
Okay, so recently it was the disappearance day of Raghunandan Thakur. Just a few days back, I'm not sure which day, but I can recall that I was checking the calendar and I saw his day. And I wanted to read about him and discuss about him. And when I opened the database to come to the section of where the story of Raghunandan is told, then I came across what section it's actually in, and it's in Madhya Lila, and it's chapter 15. And basically the gist of the scene is this, and it's that the devotees from Bengal, they would come and they would spend 4 months every year with Mahaprabhu, and then they would return to Bengal. And when they would come, then all of the different devotees, they would offer invitations to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come and take prasad in their different residences. The Lord Chaitanya was so kind and he was so merciful that he would arrange residences for all of the devotees when they would come. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes how when Mahaprabhu would hear that the devotees were approaching, when they would come to a particular bridge that was called, I think it was called Atarnala, then he would go out there and he would receive the devotees. And he would put garlands on everyone, and everybody would be in ecstasy to see Mahaprabhu. And they would accompany Mahaprabhu to his residence. And then he would tell everybody where they were appointed to stay. And then all of the invitations would begin, to take prasadam. And we know there's the famous story about Advaita Acharya. He would get some special concession, and he would be able to offer prasad to Mahaprabhu more frequently than the others. And on the meals, it would always be Lord Jagannath's Mahaprasadam, but then they would cook the dishes that, like Mahaprabhu's dishes from his home, and they would serve him with great love, and he would be very satisfied. Like here we have Radha Priya sitting in front of us, and every year at the end of the Bhishma Panchaka, she's here in Vrindavan. She does some brata in Kartik every year, and then she seriously follows Bhishma Panchaka, and then on the last day, she always cooks a super feast, and all like nice Bengali preparations, and she has us invite so many devotees to come, and she feeds us up to our ears, and then we just have to roll back to our home from her residence. So all the Bengali devotees, they would serve Mahaprabhu with so much love. And then it would be time to return to Bengal. And before the devotees would go, they would all come to take some instructions from Lord Chaitanya. They'd come for some instructions, and they would come for some blessings. And Chaitanya Charitamrita in this chapter, it describes Lord Chaitanya speaking about these different devotees, and he would speak to them with so much love. And that's really indicative of how we should speak to one another. We should always see the bright side of every devotee. We should always think the bright side of every devotee. We should always appreciate the bright side of every devotee. And being conditioned souls, we know that, a conditioned soul, has some problems, and he may have some, material defects. But we don't want to look in that way. We want to see, what that person, appreciate those fine qualities that everybody has. Just the fact that all the devotees could be doing so many things, but the fact that they have, made the intent of their life the service of Krishna through serving their spiritual masters, that's a glorious thing. And the fact that, all of you all, you're all professional people, and you have so many responsibilities, and you have your families, and you have so many different things to do, but still the intent of your life is the service of Krishna through rendering service to your spiritual master. So Lord Chaitanya, he would see that in his devotees, and he would appreciate that in all of his devotees. So we will start here in text 92, and Lord Chaitanya has just spoken very wonderfully about Raghava Pandit, and he has embraced Raghava Pandit, and it says here that the Lord offered all of the devotees a farewell with respect. Here we have Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but when his devotees are going, he doesn't just say bye, but, he offers a farewell with great respect. So in text 93, it says, the Lord also very respectfully spoke to Shivananda Sain. And we know that Shivananda Sain, he was the devotee who actually organized the entire group to go down to Bengal each year. And he would arrange everything. He would arrange for prasad. He would arrange all the cooking. He would arrange all the accommodations. If devotees had to cross rivers and take boats, he would, pay the boatmen for all the devotees. If there were taxes that they had to pay on the road, he would pay the taxes. Shivananda Sen was so kind and merciful. And we read in Chaitanya Charitamrita that when they were traveling one year, a dog became attracted to the Vaishnavas. And so Shivananda Sen let the dog enter the group also. And every day Shivananda Sen would provide prasad for the dog. And if they had to cross a river and pay the boatman, he would pay for the dog also. And he would do everything, seva very nicely for this living being within the body of a dog. And one day Shivananda had to go ahead, of the party to make some arrangements for the evening. And when he came back, he said, "Where's the dog?" And the dog wasn't there. And so Shivananda saying he sent so many people looking for that dog because he felt like, my duty is to do seva. Now he has gone away. What will happen? And he felt that the dog had left. He felt very morose. And when finally they arrived in Jagannath Puri and they went to the room of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they saw Lord Chaitanya sitting there and they saw the dog sitting next to Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya he had like a coconut and he was eating the soft malai from inside the coconut. And Lord Chaitanya would take some of that malai and he would give it to the dog. Lord Chaitanya would bite a piece of that malai and then he would give it to the dog. Lord Chaitanya was showing so much kripa and compassion. And then the dog, Lord Chaitanya would look at the dog and he would say, "Chant Hare Krishna." And then the dog would begin to chant Hare Krishna and all the devotees were amazed. And then in the presence of all the Vaishnavas, the dog assumed a spiritual form and the dog flew back to the spiritual world. And when Shivananda Sen saw that, he just bowed down and he repeatedly was offering his obeisances, just thinking, I considered that it was a dog, but indeed it was a great soul. So here the Lord respectfully speaks to Shivananda and he says, "Please take care of Vasudev Datta very nicely." Vasudev Datta is a very liberal person. And every day, whatever income he receives, he spends and he does not keep any balance. But because he's the householder, Vasudev Datta needs to save some money. And because he's not doing so, it is very difficult to maintain his family. So he looked at Shivananda and he said, "Please, you take care of Vasudev Datta's family affairs. Become his manager and do everything very, very properly." And we know the story of Vasudev Datta. He's the compassionate Vaishnav who approached Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with the prayer. He said, Vasudev was a Vaishnav, and he felt so much compassion for all of the people who were suffering here in the material world. Then Vasudev, he wanted to make like a deal with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And his deal was this. He said, please, Mahaprabhu, all these people are suffering in the material world. They're all suffering the reactions of their karmas for so many janma, so many births, so many deaths. People are just suffering, 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 all living beings. And Vasudeva said, my request is this, that you take all of the sinful reactions of all the living entities of the universe, and you give all of those reactions to me and allow me to stay here and suffer the reactions for everyone. And then by your mercy and your compassion, you take all of those people back to the spiritual world. And when Lord Chaitanya heard that appeal from Vasudeva Datta, he became overwhelmed with, emotion. And he was just thinking, how merciful is Vasudeva Datta, how compassionate is Vasudeva Datta. And Lord Chaitanya, he said, Vasudeva, he said, you don't have to stay here and suffer for these people. He said, because if a pure devotee, a pure devotee of Krishna, if he's willing good fortune to people, that good fortune will certainly come to them. So just by your desire, all of these people will go back to Godhead. So, but he was a very compassionate person, but and whatever he got in his life, he would just give it away to others. And so Lord Chaitanya, he told Shivananda saying, please become his financial manager and take care of him. He said, otherwise it's very difficult to take care of the family. And then Lord Chaitanya gave them all an instruction. He said, every year come to Jagannath Puri. He said, bring all of my devotees from Bengal. And he said, Shivananda, you bring them with you and come for the Gundicha festival. And I also request you to maintain all of them. So that's like, big instruction that Shivananda got from Lord Chaitanya. He said, you bring them all, and on the way down here, you take care of them all. And you can only imagine the joy that Shivananda felt in his heart by being able to render seva to the feet of all of Lord Chaitanya's pure devotees on Lord Chaitanya's instructions. And again, let's go back to that point. Tadara charana seva bhakta sanivas, janame janame hoy, e abhilas. That our only abhilas, or our only hope or desire, is that birth after birth, we will live in the association of Vaishnavas and serve their lotus feet. And it's, we should always remember that. That should be sort of like a pole star or a guiding light in the darkness. Birth after birth, live with the Vaishnavas and engage in the service of their lotus feet. And as I've said so many times in our association over the years, it doesn't mean live in the association of Vaishnavas and ever think negatively about the Vaishnavas. It means to live in the association of the Vaishnavas and always engage in their service. And then the Lord, he, with great respect, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu extended an invitation to all of the residents of a place called Kulinagram. And he said, my dear devotees of Kulinagram, he said, I have a special service that I want you to do. Every year when you come, I want you to bring silken rope, and we will use that silken rope to carry Lord Jagannath from the temple to when we put him on the cart. And I've never seen how they do it because I've never been to Rath Yatra, But according to Chaitanya Charitamrita, they have these very, very strong devotees. And they have these silk ropes, and somehow or other they tie up Jagannath with these silk ropes, and they carry him, and they have and they have pillows that they have along the way that's made out of some very, very fine material. And you know, they carry Jagannath for some time, and he's so big, and they have to put him down. And they place him down on those pillows. And Kaviraj Goswami says when they put Jagannath down on those pillows, then those pillows just sort of explode, and all the soft material that's within the pillow sort of flies up into the sky. And then Lord Chaitanya was speaking to the residents of Kulinagram, and and he said, there is a devotee who lived in Kulinagram, and his name was Gunaraj Khan. And he prepared a book which is known as Sri Krishna Vijay. And in that book, there's a sentence that reveals Gunaraj Khan's ecstatic love for Krishna. And then Lord Chaitanya recited that. And, and Lord Chaitanya, the verse that he recited, it says, Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, is my life and soul. And that's the line. Krishna, the son of Maharaj Nanda, is my life and soul. And then Lord Chaitanya turned to the residents of Kulinagram, and he said, by this statement of your predecessor, Gunaraj Khan, he says, I have been sold into the hands of the descendants of Gunaraj Khan, meaning Lord Chaitanya is looking at the Kulinagram residents, and he says, I have been sold into your hands. And then Lord Chaitanya, he said, to say nothing of you people who are the descendants of Gunaraj Khan, he says, even a dog who lives in your village is very near to me. What to speak of others? I mean, can you imagine? This is the supreme personality of Godhead in his form of a devotee speaking to his devotees. He said, to say nothing of you, he said, even if there's one of the dogs that lives in your village, he says that every dog is so dear to me because, they're connected to Gunaraj Khan. What to speak of others? And that sort of reminds me of that incident when I went to see Srila Sridhar Maharaj before he passed away. And when finally we were able to see him by Krishna's arrangement, only thing me and my friend wanted to say is, please excuse any conscious or unconscious offense that we may have ever made to you. And Sridhar Maharaj was very elderly and very frail. And he looked up and he said, after some time, he said, no. He said, there is no Vaishnava aparad. You have not done any Vaishnava aparad. He said, because in this lifetime, I failed to become a Vaishnava. And then he became very silent. And then he looked up and he said, please, let me tell you. He said, every day I pray to every pig and to every dog of Navadvip that they will bless me, that in some life I will become a Vaishnava. So Lord Chaitanya said, he said, even the dogs of Kulinagram are dear to me. And then after that, two devotees came forward. Excuse me for a second. two devotees came forward. And those devotees, their name was Satyaraj Khan and Raman Davasu. And they both submitted questions to the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is what Satyaraj Khan said. And all these devotees, they're the eternal associates of the Lord. But this was the Lord's question. This was Satyaraj Khan's question. My dear Lord, being a householder and a materialistic man, I do not know the process of advancing in spiritual life. Therefore, I submit myself unto you, and I humbly request that you will give me orders. And so listen to Lord Chaitanya's response to the question of Satyaraj Khan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, without cessation, chant the holy names of Lord Krishna. Whenever possible, serve him and serve his devotees, the Vaishnavas. The Lord Chaitanya was very clear. You know, Satyaraj Khan is saying, I'm a householder, I'm a materialistic person, I have so many duties, I have so many responsibilities. I don't really know how to advance in spiritual life. Therefore, tell me what to do. And Mahaprabhu just very clearly, he said, without cessation, always continue chanting the holy names of Lord Krishna. And if the situation arises, you serve him and always serve his devotees. So that is such a pure and simple, powerful, and pertinent instruction for all of us. We should always chant the holy names. And if we have a chance to render some service, if we have some chance to do something in Damodar Desh Yatra, if you have some chance to do something in the Sangha of my disciples, then do that. If you have some, and then if you have chance to just give personal service to the feet of the Vaishnavas. Lord Chaitanya is saying it right here. He says, please serve them. And then upon hearing this, Satyaraj Khan, he asked another question. And he said, all right, Lord, you've instructed me to serve the Vaishnavas. But my question is this, how can I recognize a Vaishnav? Please let me know what a Vaishnav is and what are the common symptoms of Vaishnavas. And Lord Chaitanya replied again, very clear and very to the point. He said, whoever chants the holy name of Krishna just once is worshipable and is the topmost human being. So that's Lord Chaitanya's definition of what is a Vaishnava. I mean, he doesn't, Lord Chaitanya was an essentialist. And Lord Chaitanya would go straight to the point. You know, he didn't have to give a seminar of 15 classes to explain what is a Vaishnava. But Lord Chaitanya said, simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna just once, he said, a person is worshipable and he is the topmost human being. And we should put that inside because we're surrounded by so many people who have chanted Hare Krishna not only once, but who have chanted Hare Krishna consistently for decades and decades. And we should understand, yes, these are Vaishnavas, and they're the topmost people of human society. And, many times we don't like to talk. Like, certainly we don't like to think that we're the topmost people of human society. But we should understand these instructions of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that these people who are chanting the holy names, they've surpassed, all, Vedic, Vidi and regulations. They've gone beyond all of that. And in this life, they're taking Krishna's holy names. And then Lord Chaitanya continued. He said, simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna once, a person is relieved of the reactions of sinful life, and one can complete the 9 processes of devotional service simply by chanting the holy names. Now, we should say, just for the sake of clarity, that Mahaprabhu here is speaking about offenseless chanting of the holy name in the highest sense. And that's why, we should always be striving to chant Harinam Sankirtan without committing the offenses to the holy name, beginning from offending the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who have dedicated their lives to the propagation of the holy name, to not chanting the holy names with attention. And I know that all of us have heard the instruction of Haridas Thakur that inattentive chanting is the field in which, all of the other different offenses to the holy name grow. Then Lord Chaitanya, he says something very amazing. He says, one does not have to undergo initiation or execute activities required before initiation. One simply has to vibrate the holy names with his lips. And thus, even the lowest among men, a Chandala, can be delivered. So again, we've discussed this before. The holy name is so powerful. And the holy name is Krishna. Binat Nam Nami Namino. The holy name and the possessor of the name, they're absolutely the same. And here in this verse, Mahaprabhu is saying, one does not even have to undergo initiation to become perfected by chanting the holy name. And then one will say, then why do we have initiation? And then Srila Prabhupada, he gives that nice example, which I've shared with you all before. And Srila Prabhupada says that it's like starting a fire with wet wood and dry wood. And if you try to start the fire with wet wood, then the effect will be, eventually fire will come out. But before you get to the fire, then you're going to have a lot of smoke and it's going to sputter a lot. And, everything it's going to take a long time. But if you have very dry, cured wood and the spark comes to it, then immediately, the flames erupt. So chanting the holy name with initiation from a spiritual master in the line of the succession, one receives good instructions. One is engaged in bhajana kriya. One is explained the process of anartha nivriti. One gets vision. One gets inspiration. And then one will strive to start coming to the position of nishtha and ruchi and ultimately asakti. And in that position of asakti, Krishna's mercy comes. So Prabhupada says it's a more rapid and a more powerful process. And that's why we're recommended to take initiation in the chanting of the holy names. By chanting the holy name of the Lord, one dissolves his entanglement in material activities. I always like how that word that phrase is used, one dissolves one's entanglement in material activities. After this, one becomes very much attracted to Krishna, and thus dormant love for Krishna becomes awakened. So it's adal shraddha, tata sadhusanga, tapachana kriya, anartha nivritti, and then nishta. One will chant with steadiness of mind, meaning we chant the holy names and we're hearing the holy names, and mind is not pulling us here and mind is not pulling us there. And then ruchi will come, like a profound taste for Krishna will start to grow in that chanting to the point that we just don't want anything else other than Krishna. And we become intensely eager to attain Krishna. And then asakti. And asakti is as we've often mentioned, asakti is the last position of sadhana. And that's the position where asakti means attachment. So it means that the material attachment has been completely transformed. And the only attachment which we have is attachment for Krishna. And when we come to that position of bhakti, then yayatamam prapadyante tang sitaiva bhajamyaham. Krishna rewards. And the gift that Krishna gives is himself, meaning he allows the spiritual potency to descend upon us. And when that spiritual potency touches us and touches our hearts, then material existence is dissolved, meaning we no longer understand that we have these bodies, that we're living in material bodies. This, what's that verse from the 9th chapter of the 2nd canto? Mukti hitpanyata rupam swarupena vyavastiti. You know, it's liberation for the Vaishnava is described in this way. Mukti hitvanyata rupam swarupena vyavastiti. All material conceptions finished. Sarva upadi vinirmuktam tat padatina nirmalam. And then in that purified state, our natural swarup becomes revealed to us. So that should be like the direction which we want to go in, you know, but it requires paying attention and it requires being very careful. And it means consciously, you know, striving to avoid all of the different offenses, beginning with offending the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who have dedicated their lives for chanting the holy name of the Lord. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then, okay, then he quotes the verse from the Bhagavatam. It says, the holy name of Krishna is an attractive feature for many saintly and liberal people. It is the annihilator of all sinful reactions, and it is so powerful that save for the dumb who cannot chant it, it is readily available to everyone, including the lowest type of man, the Chandala. The holy name of Krishna is the controller of the opulence of liberation, and it is identical with Krishna. When a person simply chants the holy name with his tongue, immediate effects are produced. Chanting the holy name does not depend on initiation, pious activities, or the Purusharya regulative principles generally observed before initiation. The holy name does not wait for any of these activities because the holy name is self-sufficient. So we say that the holy name and Krishna are the same. And the first verse of the Bhagavatam explains to us that Krishna is Abhigya and he is Swarat. Krishna knows everything and Krishna is completely independent. So for Krishna to reveal himself, he's not dependent on purificatory activities. It's not dependent on any different rituals. Krishna can do that as he likes, but we should show Krishna our pure intent. And then if one does receive initiation and follows the instructions of one spiritual master, then Krishna will reciprocate more readily. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then finally advised, and again he's speaking to Satyaraj Khan, one who is chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is understood to be a Vaishnava. Therefore, you should offer all respects to him. So, any person who is chanting Hare Krishna, whether he's the big person or whether he's the small person, if he's taking the holy names, Mahaprabhu says he is a Vaishnava, and we should always give our obeisances to that person. So now another devotee is going to come forward, and this is Mukunda Das. And Mukunda, he was originally from a place which is called Srikanda. And Srikanda, if you're in Mayapur, you have to go to the other side of the river, and you can go to Katwa, where Lord Chaitanya took sannyas, and then you can take a bus ride over to Srikanda. And they were from this place, Mukunda, and his brother was Narahari Sarkar Thakur. And then Mukunda had a son whose name was Raghunandan. So in the beginning, I mentioned recently it was the disappearance day of Raghunandan Thakur, and so this is where Raghunandan's Leela will come into play. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the son of Sachi, next he spoke to Mukunda Das, and he said, Mukunda, you are the father, and Raghunandan is your son. Is that correct? And then he paused and he said, or is Srila Raghunandan your father, and you are his son? Please let me know about this so that my doubts will go away. So Lord Chaitanya is presenting this. Are you the father and Raghunandan is your son, which was like the material situation? Or Lord Chaitanya is saying, or is Srila Raghunandan actually your father and you're the son? And Mukunda replied, with great humility, he said, my dear Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is my decision. My decision is Raghunandan is my father and I am his son. This is my decision. And then Mukunda said, all of us have attained devotion to Krishna due to Raghunandan. Therefore, in my mind, he is my father. And, hearing Mukunda answer in this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirmed, and he said, yes, it is correct. One who awakens devotion to Krishna is certainly the spiritual master. So, so the backstory is this about Raghunandan, that they lived in Srikanda, and Mukunda was a Vaidya, and he was the Vaidya of the Muslim king at that time, and I'm not sure which king it was, but he was the Vaidya of the Muslim king, and Raghunandan was his son. And one day in Srikanda, Mukunda, got a call. Somebody came and said, the king wishes for you to come early, and he wants that He needs your help. You please come. So Mukunda was perplexed because he hadn't performed his puja to his Gopinath deity. And this Gopinath deity had been in the family of Mukunda already for something like 200 years by the time Mukunda Das appeared. And he used to care for the deity every day. And being a Brahmin and wanting to train his son properly, he always had his son with him while he was doing puja. And so that his son may just, step by step, learn how to do puja. And the boy was only about 5 years old. And on that day, because Mukunda had to go early, he went to his 5-year-old son and he said, Raghunandan, please listen to me. He said, the king is calling and I must go. But we have to do the puja, and therefore I want you to do the puja today. And he said, whatever you have seen me do to Gopinath, I want you to do that to Gopinath. Anything you can remember that you've seen, just imitate what I have done and you do that. And he said, Raghunandan, you have seen that every day we make a very nice offering to Gopinath, and we give him all sorts of fruits, and we give him nice ladus and different types of sweets. So I want you to make a nice offering to Gopinath. And the boy was very happy, and he was just 5. He was just a young boy. And so the father left, and then this young boy started imitating his father, and who knows if he could chant mantras or if he was just making some sound like mantras and ringing bells and pouring water and doing whatever. But then when it came time to make the offering, he went and he gathered up fruits and he gathered up ladus and he put on a plate and he brought and he put in front of the altar. And he bent over and he was ringing bell and he was saying prayers, for the Lord to take prasad. And when he looked, he saw on the plate that the prasad, what appeared to him is everything was still there. And the boy became very disturbed. And he looked up and he said, Prabhu, why didn't you eat? Prabhu, I offered with love from my heart. Why didn't you eat? You must eat. Gopinath, come. You have to eat. And the boy just started crying, from his heart. He was saying, please, please, come and eat. Please come and eat. What is the word you say in Bengali? Cow? Cow. Wait, what is eat?
Cow.
Cow, eat. And at a certain point, Gopinath just got up from the altar and he came and he sat down in front of the thali and he just started methodically eating everything from the plate. And the boy was overwhelmed in ecstasy. And then when Gopinath finished, the boy, he offered water for the deity to wash his mouth and for it to wash his hands and sprinkle water on his feet. And then the deity got back up on the altar and the boy was in ecstasy. And I guess Gopinath was in ecstasy also, that he had been worshipped in pure spontaneous love. So then Mukunda came back home and he said, son, did you do everything the way that I explained that you should do? And he said, yes, Father. He said, I worshiped according to your instructions. And he said, and did you make the nice offering in the way that we have always made? And he said, yes, Father, I made nice offering. And so then the father said, well, could I please have some Mahaprasadam? And the boy said, but Father, there's no Mahaprasadam. And the father said, why not? And he said, because Gopinath ate everything. And the father, he just started like scratching his head, and he was thinking, how could the deity eat everything? And here he is like teaching his son, but even when that concept came up, the deity actually ate everything on the plate. I was thinking, how? My son is a good boy. He doesn't tell stories. He doesn't eat all the Mahaprasadam. What's going on? So he just let it rest. But then he made a device by which he wanted to catch, see what happened. So a few days later, he told Raghunandan in the morning, he said, son, I've also been called today to go to the king's place. He said, can you do the puja today like you did the other day? And the boy was so happy. He said, yes, Father, yes, Father. So he did everything. And what happened is Mukunda, he just went outside and he had like a hiding place. And he was like looking in the room to see everything that was going on. And he saw the way the boy was doing things. Remember, he's just a little boy. And then he brought this nice plate with so many fruits and ladus and so many different sweets. And he said the prayers, he offered, and then he looked up and everything was still there. And again, he began crying, cow, cow, eat, eat. Please, you say that you'll accept things. Please eat. I know you have so much to do. You have to take cows to the pasture. You have to, do so many things. Eat, Gopinath, eat, Gopinath. And finally, Gopinath got off the altar, and he came down and he started eating. And Mukunda was like looking at this. And Mukunda was like amazed. What is happening here? The deity has actually become animated. The deity is responding to the loving prayers of my boy. He's responding to the appeals of my boy. And at a certain point, Mukunda just became so overwhelmed that he walked into the room just at the point when Gopinath had just bit into a ladu. And he had half that ladu in his hand. And at that point, Gopinath just became a deity again with half of a ladu left in his hand. And Mukunda saw that, and he became overwhelmed, by the pure devotion of his son. And then Mahaprabhu, he said, yes, your understanding is correct, Mukunda, that Raghunandan is the father and you're the son. And then Lord Chaitanya phrased it in this way. He said, one who awakens devotion to Krishna, he is certainly the spiritual master. And Mukunda has said, is by Raghunandan's grace and his example that we have all developed our devotion to Krishna. So that was like, the great potency of this Vaishnav, Raghunandan Thakur. And it says, Lord Chaitanya, he was so happy just to speak about the glories of his devotees. Indeed, when Lord Chaitanya began glorifying his devotees, it was like Lord Chaitanya had 5 mouths. And we should become like that also. When we look around and we see one another and we start glorifying one another, it should be like we have 5 mouths. And naturally, none of us like to be glorified. I don't like to be glorified. You don't like to be glorified. Nobody likes to be glorified. But still, we should know by the example of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that if we will glorify the beautiful qualities of Vaishnavas, we will feel so much joy, it will be as if we have five mouths. And then Lord Chaitanya, he said, please, my dear devotees, please hear of Mukunda's love of Godhead. His love is so deep and it is so pure that it can only be compared to purified gold. And we know from Nartam Das, Prema Bhakti Chandrika, there he says, which has been purified by burning it in fire 1,000,000 times. It's like if our Gokul Chandra is there, he can explain to you that gold in its original state, it's so much impurity inside. So they have to burn it and burn it and burn it, and they burn all the impurities out until it comes to that beautiful shining color. But Krishna Prema Bhakti is like gold which has been purified by fire 100,000 times. And then Lord Chaitanya, he says, Mukunda Das externally appears to be a royal physician who is engaged in government service, but internally, he has deep love for Krishna. And who can understand the love that Mukunda has? And then Lord Chaitanya tells a story. And he says, one day, Mukunda was with the king. And being with the Muslim king and being so confidential with the Muslim king, the king was sitting on a very high platform, and he requested his doctor, you please come and sit here with me. We have our here. And when people develop like faith in their doctors, even the person can be like a king, but he'll if he has faith in his doctor, he'll be very confidential with his doctor. Come, you be with me. So the king was sitting on a high platform, and he said, Mukunda, you come and sit here with me. And Mukunda started telling the king, well, I think that we need to give you this type of medical treatment, and this is going to make you feel better, and you're going to have to do this. And while they were conversing, and while Mukunda was sitting there, one of the loyal servants of the king, he realized that the sun was becoming very bright, and it may cause some discomfort for Mukunda, for the king. So the servant, he ran and he got one of these big peacock fans. And he came and he was holding that peacock fan over the king so that the king would be in the shade. And while sitting there, Mukunda looked up and he saw the peacock fan. And when he just saw the peacock feathers in that fan, he became fully absorbed in love of Godhead, and he started experiencing ecstatic symptoms. And one of those ecstatic symptoms is that Mukunda, he fainted and he fell off that high platform. And so the king was like, he was in shock, and he was thinking, oh, Allah, maybe my royal physician has died. Maybe he has been killed. And so the king, he jumped off the throne immediately, and he went to Mukunda and he was like, doing so many things to like bring Mukunda back to his consciousness. And then the king looked at Mukunda and he said, Mukunda, Mukunda, where are you feeling pain? Where are you feeling pain? And Mukunda just looked up and smiled and he said, I'm not feeling pain at all. And the king said, then Mukunda, why did you fall down? But the king, because he was extraordinarily intelligent, he didn't ask any more questions because he could understand the whole situation, and he could understand that his physician had seen the peacock feather, and that peacock feather had reminded him of Krishna, and only by seeing that he had become overwhelmed with ecstatic love. And so in the estimation of the king, Mukunda was the most uncommon, exalted, and liberated personality. And then Lord Chaitanya, not only did he speak about Mukunda, but then he spoke about Raghunandan. And he said, Raghunandan, he constantly serves Lord Gopinath in the temple. And he said, beside the entrance to the temple, there's a lake. And on the banks of that lake, there is a kadamba tree. And every day, throughout every season of the year, that kadamba tree offers 2 flowers for Krishna's service. And it seems to me that when I visited that place back in 1987, or 1988, I think that kadamba tree was still there. And that kadamba tree was still presenting those 2 kadamba flowers every day for the worship of Gopinath. And so then Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to give instructions and blessings to the devotees of Sri Khanda. And Sri Chaitanya spoke to Mukunda with sweet words. And he said, Mukunda, your duty is to gain material. He said, your duty is to gain both material and spiritual wealth, which is an interesting instruction, but we can understand it from the perspective that if Mukunda, because he was a pure devotee, if he gained material wealth, then what would he do? He would simply use it for the seva of the Vaishnavas. So you gain material wealth and you gain spiritual wealth also. And then he turned to Raghunandan and he said, and furthermore, Raghunandan's duty is to always engage in Lord Krishna's service. He has no other intention in his life other than the service of Lord Gopinath. And then for Mukunda's brother, who is Narhari Sakar Thakur, he said, I wish you to remain here with my devotees. And this way, all 3 of you should execute these 3 duties for the service of the Lord. Now I'm going to try to open to the commentary. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus ordered Narahari, I wish you to remain here with my devotees, meaning stay here in Jagannath Puri. And this way, the 3 of you should execute these 3 duties for the service of the Lord. So Prabhupada says in his purport, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu set forth 3 duties for 3 different people. Mukunda was to earn money and follow the religious principles, whereas Narhari was to remain always with the Lord's devotees in Puri, and Raghunandan was to engage in the Lord's service in the temple. Thus, one person worships in the temple, another earns money honestly by executing his professional duty, and yet another preaches Krishna consciousness with the devotees. Apparently, these three types of service appear separate, but actually they are not. When Krishna, or when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in the center of all of one's duties, everyone can engage in different services to the Lord, and this is the verdict of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So very nice instructions. Lord Chaitanya giving, instructions to his devotees. Let me see, how do we go back here and make it big again so I can see everyone? Let's see, I don't know what I'm doing here. Can somebody make the whole thing appear on my screen at once? Because I don't know what I'm doing here. Hare Krishna. Now everybody totally disappeared. Ah, here we are. Now I'm on the screen. At any rate, Lord Chaitanya is giving shiksha to all of his devotees before they go back to Bengal. And Lord Chaitanya is lovingly speaking, and Lord Chaitanya is respectfully speaking to all of his devotees. And Lord Chaitanya is giving different people different instructions. And Prabhupada is making the point, different instructions for different people. But all the devotees of the Lord, regardless of what they're doing, keep Lord Krishna or Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at the center of one's lives. And then all of one's services are equal. And I can recall that when I was young in Krishna consciousness, I was the cook. And in Toronto, I loved going on Sankirtan. But because I was a cook, and I was a good cook, unfortunately, they wouldn't let me go on Sankirtan, but they made me stay back and cook. And then the Sankirtan boys would go out, and they would come back and they'd say, what are you doing back here in the temple? You're not doing anything. We're doing the real seva. We're going out and we're selling the books for Prabhupada. That's the only service. We're doing it. And, when we were young, we never really, as many of us lived in small temples as we did, and being so young, we never really got into quarrels with one another, which to this day is like a miracle. I don't know how we did that without killing one another, but we didn't kill one another. We just sort of cooperated and we got on with things, and there were no fist fights ever, and there were no high voices ever, but naturally they were saying, you're not doing anything. The only service is to sell the books. And so at first I wanted to kill, but then I adjusted in my consciousness, and I was thinking, well, my duty is to cook. So I should learn how to cook super excellently so that the Sankirtan devotees will always feel full of joy and full of energy and happy every day that they run out the door, that they can go out and they can do, plenty of devotional service to the Sankirtan mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. I think one day I did actually not cook, and I told somebody else to cook. And then the next day, all the Sankirtan devotees came to me and they were saying, "Oh, Yodhipati, your service is so great. Your service is so important. Could you please go to the kitchen tomorrow?" I said, "Sure." But yeah, we have to think in that way. It's just like that example that we learned from the time that we're so teeny in our devotional practice about Hanumanji and that little squirrel. and everybody was collecting the stones to make the bridge to Lanka. And Hanumanji and so many others, they were carrying huge boulders and mountains and everything. And when they came to the shore, the little squirrel was just pushing, grains of sand. And Hanumanji was like, hey, get out of the way. We're doing the real heavy lifting over here. And Ram said, no, Hanumanji. He is doing seva from his love for me in the same way that you're doing seva from your love for me. And then Lord Ram, to show his mercy to that little squirrel, he bent over and he took his 3 fingers and he ran along the backs of that little squirrel. And that's why our squirrels over here, they all have those 3 lines from the touch of the fingers of Sri Ramchandra Bhagavan. So good instructions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we should take these instructions. We should take these instructions to our heart. We should remember these instructions as we're engaging in devotional service. We should remember these instructions when we're associating with the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. Okay, thank you all very much. Once again, please forgive me for coming late, but I was with Chinese devotees, and one of the devotees, a disciple of mine, his name is Sundar Chaitanya. He is from Shanghai, and he was recommended for Brahminical initiation. So I was giving him the mantra, and giving mantras to Chinese devotees is always a great challenge, because you can say a mantra and when they respond, there's no telling what they're going to say, because their tongues work a different way than our tongues work. Okay, I hope everybody is well. Over here in Vrindavan, finally the warm weather has come. It's going up like 30-ish in the day. And last night it was still going down to 13 degrees in the night. But I think that we're just coming to the end of quilt season over here. Soon it will be ending and we'll just be covering ourselves with a sheet when we sleep at night with windows open. And then soon after that, probably the windows are going to close and the AC will be in. The nectar season will be upon us. Okay, everybody, please stay well. Nice to see. Hey, Shiv, come here. Shiv Charan. Show me which button to push so I can see everybody in the program.
This one.
That one?
Yes. This.
Let this. Anyhow, we're having some issues over here. We can't see all the participants, but Hare Krishna. Wait. Maybe we will be able to see.
Yeah.
Haha, the great genius, Shiv Charan. Subal, Hare Krishna, Jai Govinda, Chanchalakshi, Priyanka, Krishna Gopal. Assalamu alaikum, Habibi. You look like Ali Akbar, somebody with that big beard you got on your face. Hare Krishna. Haribo, Lord Krishna Champakavata. Kunja Kishori. Hare Krishna. Nice to see you. Radhana, Hare Krishna. Radhamadava, Hare Krishna. Gokul Chandra, Hare Krishna. Rajajana, Tulsi Maharani, Krishna Sarup. Banu, Hare Krishna. And Kunjeshwari and Gopi, Hare Krishna. And other people I can't see. Prakash Gidwani, I can't see him. Sanjay Khetri, I can't see him. Madhya. There I can see Prakash. Now I can see our
Hare Krishna, Amitabh Bachchan you can see now.
Amitabh Bachchan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
How are
Maharaj. How are
you?
you? I'm
I
fine,
am
Maharaj. Your
fine.
blessing. You seem to have pulled down your weight from your face.
No, I just shaved.
No, but you're looking a little bit weaker on the face side.
Why are you hiding your face?
He's
No,
driving
I'm
a
driving,
car. it
Maharaj. I'm
seems.
driving back home. I'm driving back home from the Seva, region school.
Ah. Okay, everybody, stay well. We'll see you next week, okay?
Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Guru
Jai
Maharaj.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Yeah.
Jai Radhe Shyam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Jai. Thank you, Subal Prabhu, for this nice initiative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Ahmad Ali Mustafa.
Radhe Shyam.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.